Welcome to the first edition of Living Courageously Exposed 2025. Today happens to be January 3rd, 2025. We're 3 days into the new year.
I know. That's so exciting.
Oh my gosh. It's exciting. And for me, it comes with some not excitingness too. I'm not going to lie. Why? You just asked me why? Because it means in a few days, I got to go back to Idaho and that brings a lot of feels. So for now, we're totally enjoying all this yummy, delicious time together with each other and with you. So welcome to 2025. It's going to be a good year. I don't know about you, but I've been hearing and seeing a lot of people really feeling like they got their butts kicked in 2024.
Oh yeah.
We
got our butts kicked.
We got our butts kicked in 2024.
Let's be real here.
Yeah. We talked, you start seeing everybody's posts and about all the amazing fancy things they did and all the I'm not even going to get into that here right now, but and that is so amazing. But I really just want to acknowledge you who feel like you got your butt kicked. And while you were down there, you kind of got rolled around in the dirt and you just felt like you couldn't get up sometimes. We see you. We love you. We know you. And we're proud of you. And this year's going to be different.
Yeah.
It's going to be different.
Well, I wonder if I know for myself, 2024 was a lot of really hard realizations that really shifted the way I looked at the world, the way I looked at myself. I really had to just reflect and question how I've been doing things and how I've been being and what I really want in my life and what I'm willing to accept in life.
I appreciate you sharing that because I think that's myself as well. And I think that's by design, quite frankly, energetically in the planet. That's we're getting to a point, Rebels, where it's you gotta decide and really start figuring out who you are as a being, as a person, and really learning how to come home to ourselves and know what our hearts are and know what our own voices are. And I know there's a lot of pushing back against, and even some fighting, but pushing back against systems and things that we've taught, and lots of people just in this consternative state of, that was a big word I just made up, consternative, of feeling angst or anger or just crunchiness inside there. And there's so many other things. I'm just sharing the quick ones coming to my mind of things just aren't working. They're not working outside in our worlds and our systems, but they're certainly not working inside. And so I think it's by design. We're actually in some ways kind of being forced, highly encouraged by greater energies to wake up.
Well, I love the post that you put out the other day by the naked pastor.
We love the naked pastor.
Yeah, that this guy is saying to God, I want new things for this year. And he's God's okay. And then he boots him off.
Are you ready? Yeah. I love David. Just thank you for your work and the stuff you do. You guys, we have a really great interview. Was it in November with David Hayward? And you can find that over on YouTube. You can find it on the Righteous Rebels Facebook group, but also just on my personal page.
Yeah.
We're reconstructing our website, so you can't go there for now.
No.
But great interview with David.
I really love that. I can put that in the comments as well.
I think it resonated with me because when you and I started this journey, I often said that, I'm and people would say to me, what the hell are you doing? I felt like I was blowing up my life, and other people definitely thought I was blowing up my life. And I remember saying the words I feel like I am my soul is calling and pulling me to these places that I don't know. I'm standing on the edge of the cliff with God, and he's are you ready to go? And I'm I'm not ready to go. And he's fuck.
Yeah.
Well, now you are.
Yeah.
Good luck having real faith And, you're going to get to experience what that is, which means lots of unknown. So, wow. Welcome to 2025.
We're pretty excited. And I know our bodies are feeling that because we've been working on what 2025 wants to look for us, and Righteous Rebels and Creative Unraveling, and how we're going to
I want to totally jump right into that, but let's start how we usually start, because I'm feeling it.
Okay.
So I'm going to let you lead it.
Oh, shoot. Okay. I just shared on the live feed the link for the Naked Pastor interview. It was a really great interview, and it's one of those ones that you could just go on in conversation for a long time.
Yeah, and I just appreciate David Hayward. Just his real raw way he shares his own life experience, and his time inside of religion and being clergy himself, and just great stuff.
All right, so we usually take a second in this podcast just to connect to ourselves and take a moment to center ourselves, get in our bodies. I'm going to invite you, if you want. I like to hold my hand on my heart just to connect with myself there.
And if you want, you can put one on your belly too.
Yeah, that's not my favorite, but definitely.
I like it.
So you can close your eyes. You can just have a downward gaze and just feel your breath. Like, imagine you can actually see your breath going into your body, and watch it go down into your lungs and right down to your belly, to your sit bones. And if you're feeling really adventurous, go right down to your knees and to your toes. Wiggle your toes a little bit, and then you can let that breath come back out. You can breathe in all the goodness, all the things you're grateful for, and you can breathe out all the things and thoughts that aren't serving you in this moment. Pay attention to how your body's feeling. And give yourself the permission to just let go, even if it's just for a few minutes. And then my silliness wants to kick in.
I know. My body totally heated up. Oh
right?
My gosh. I'm like, where's the heat vent?
Right beside.
Dang.
I just want to say, hey, Kelly. We see you too. Kelly says, I see you and appreciate the beautiful souls you are.
Kelly. I love Kelly.
Oh my gosh, I love Kelly. Kelly has been a longtime friend of mine since, 2003, 2002, 2003. Our daughters are 6 months apart, and she was such a beautiful soul that helped me in a time that I really needed a friend. So I adore you, Kelly.
I love those kind of friendships that you can, in the moments where, someone can give a really beautiful hand up, which is a lending of energy. It's not handouts, although sometimes those are appropriate too. But just that hand up of I have extra to give, and I'm gonna share it so that it can help raise you while you're in this moment of you could use a little extra. But then how you don't have to see each other every day. You don't have to. You can have ups and downs inside the relationships, but after all the time, you can still just sit down and see each other and start talking like it was yesterday.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, and Kelly was the one that when my world was imploding, I just felt like I could go to her and just share honestly, and she would just listen or just be an encourager for me. And it's really important to have that safe space where you can share in a place where you don't feel judged, or you're going to be given a whole bunch of advice that you really aren't asking for. And, it's just lessons that life is trying to teach, whatever. In that moment, I just need to talk. So anyways,
I love it.
Did you want to do your intro?
I just noticed, I was like, why do I have this notebook sitting up here? And it's like, oh yeah, we were going to do an intro. So we've been like playing around because I've come back to the Living Courageously Exposed brand and really like deciding what it is. And so right now, this is what we're playing with, that we're building community and giving voice to you who are doing it differently, going against the grain, learning how to flow, and learning how to kick the door open for others going through similar journeys. This is a place of celebration of the human spirit and a call to live courageously, authentically, and unapologetically.
Yeah.
Why have we? I know some of you have noticed that we've changed from that we used to say be bold, be brave, be a rebel, and now we say be bold, be courageous, be a rebel.
Yeah.
There's a couple of reasons for that. What is that?
I think we
She just color coded the snacks.
I think so. For me, living courageously, there's a dynamic that I often refer to and think of as far as courage creates confidence and confidence creates courage. And when you practice in either one, they feed the other.
Seems like we have a teaching model on
Yeah,
that.
we do. So for me, courageously, I know we had done some reading in Osho and the way he described the difference between courage and bravery.
Yeah, when you break the word down, core actually means core is actually heart.
Yeah. And action, right? Taking action. Whereas brave is like there's a layer of fear, moving in fear.
There's a lot of ego in bravery.
So,
and again, there's nothing wrong with that. It just is levels of learning.
Yeah.
But it also fits the branding.
So today we're talking about coming home to ourselves.
Oh,
that topic that's been an underlying topic of Righteous Rebels since I started chatting with you.
It is the underlying topic of Righteous Rebels.
Yeah, about coming home to yourself, and we just got into conversation of like, what does that actually mean, and why do we feel it's important for us to learn to come home to ourselves?
Yeah. What did we say?
I'm trying to think of the question I asked you last night about that.
I'm kind of drawing a blank.
Yeah. Well, I think I had asked you, what does it mean to trust yourself? Like, what does it mean to come home to yourself? And why don't we do it? And the thing that's resonating in my head right now, it's freaking scary. You used another word.
I was going to say the thing that's running through my own mind is that it's effing scary and challenging to come home to yourself. You asked me the question actually of like, why do I want to create a course or even talk to people about this? And I said, because it's effing scary. It's challenging. And most of us don't know the way. We're not taught the way. Most of us don't even know what that means to come home to ourselves. We don't know our own hearts, and we don't know how to recognize our own voices, let alone use them. We use them every day though. Like but how often are you recognizing that the things you're saying, like how often do you question yourself? Like, is that actually what I believe? Like, do I really believe that? Is that my belief that I came up with and created for myself? Or is that something that I either picked up on for whatever reason, was given to me or taught to me by the adults in my world or the systems in my world? And then we just, because lots of it comes from a little age, we just keep moving and living like that. But eventually this like static and consternation starts coming in and not feel goods, and we don't really know how to find our answers.
Well, we attach a lot of our self-worth to those ideas and those concepts. If I don't do it this way, whether it's being obedient to our parents or to our school or religion, whatever the organization is we're always seeking outside of ourselves for validation, for approval, for our sense of worth.
Any sense of worth, value, or who we are.
Yeah. I think that one is tough to untangle from, just because there's answers there. You talk about that a lot. It's like, I had all the answers. If I do this, then I'm gonna, get this result from it.
Yeah.
There's a comfort in having a blueprint, so to say.
Absolutely.
But
there's definitely a roadmap.
Yeah.
And before we go on, I just want to, I want to like preface this, because I'm feeling lots of emotion. There's some things that I said I would never do. And I remember very clearly standing when I lived in Sugar Salem area of Idaho, and I could see the Tetons out my kitchen window. And my friend Chris, who is no longer with us, was riding these long bike rides of 100 miles, and he was an incredible racer. And I remember seeing something of his and thinking, I will never do anything that's 100 miles. And I looked out the Tetons and I saw them, and I'm like, I will never climb the Grand Tetons. And I said things like, I will never bring people out of the closet, and I will never bring people out of my religion. I was still in it. And the crazy thing is I've probably done all of those things, although I don't feel like I'm bringing people out of the religion or bringing people out of the closet. I just have a lot of people approach me and ask for assistance and guidance on what my journey has been, because I've been willing to share some things. And so today, I start a different courageous journey of stepping closer to my own home and my own voice, and not necessarily speaking against the religion that I grew up in, but just recognizing some ways that it didn't work for me, or that it doesn't for me now. And at Righteous Rebels, we talk about being truth seekers, and that's seeking your own truth. It's having your own rebellion in your own righteous ways. And that means knowing your own truth. And for a long time, I haven't said things because I valued so many things inside of there. And there's still so much that I find value in. I just have a lot of feels, and I've been shamed and told that I shouldn't speak out or speak up or use my voice. And when you add the LGBT factor into it, that added a whole new layer of me silencing myself or being afraid to talk and sharing my story and my experience. And I'm not doing it anymore. And it feels really scary. Because people have walked out of my world. When I opened the door and let you in, you walked away. You chose not to come in. And so it just feels, I just feel a lot of apprehension, but I also feel a lot of pull. And I've resisted a lot. And I have fought it and had my own consternation and holding myself back because I don't share the things that actually have created massive growth in my own world and in my own heart and in my own coming home to myself. And so
I just see that piece of you in our relationship, in our interactions. Those parts of you that are just like aching to come out.
I feel snarky.
Yeah. And there's such an honesty to that expression that it's dying to come out. Like It wants to be heard and it wants to be seen. And I just look at the people who reach out to you and who are just looking for a sense of themselves. Because if you think about it, you've been in this system for so long, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a family dynamic, whether it's a religion, whatever it is. It is so scary to come away from that, because you know that world, you know how it works, and you know how they look at people outside of that world or people who have left that world. And that is so terrifying, how you're going to be judged and the stories people are going to tell. And it's such a hard thing to do. And then, so we finally make the decisions to go out of that, but then it's like, oh my gosh, now what? I don't know what to believe. I don't know what's real. I don't know what the next steps are. And really it's learning to trust yourself, which is so hard because you've been taught your whole life, don't trust yourself, don't listen to yourself for everyone else's benefit and gain. So I just appreciate your courage to share and show up and do it differently.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So that's just me saying I'm on my own still courageous journey, and desiring to live courageously exposed, and mostly because I know I learned at a really young age. I don't know why I knew these things, that when I shared on, just because my whole life people have been coming to me, like even as a young person, my friends would come to me and they would want to talk, and they would talk about these deep things, and they're like, but you know things. I'm like, why are you coming to me? Do you not see what's going on in my own world? Like how, like what? But somewhere I knew that when I was willing to speak honestly and openly and be vulnerable, that it allowed other people to do the same. And really, I just have desire to do that. I've had desire for that my whole life, and I have a place to do it, and I need to. It's time. It's not that I need to. It's time to just really start doing that, because the nagging inside of me is becoming almost unbearable.
Well, and I think of the nagging, but I also feel like you talked about before we had met that you were on a struggle bus, and I think that's those pieces of
having my voice shut down.
Yeah. And that part of you is dying, and it's hard to continue to fight what feels like an insurmountable battle. Like there's no way to win. And so part of you is dying, and that's painful, and it's hard. It's like your whole purpose and what you believed your work here was, that you're somewhere, you're having the belief that you're not going to fulfill that because you can't do it within the life that you're currently living.
Yeah.
And that's hard. It's challenging.
It is challenging. It is challenging. Verbiage matters. I know people are like, it's just semantics, but there's energy in words, and
yeah.
I'm like, oh, where do we go from here? I feel like parts of me, like, is that like I'm feeling this pull to talk about something that I don't know that I'm ready to talk about, or that I've really given a lot of thought to. Oh my gosh, is this trust?
Is this surrender?
Is this
do it before you're ready?
Right. I know all those things. I feel like I need to eat more snacks. I just want to think Black Forest fruit snacks. These look like elves.
Not that it's sponsored, although it probably should be for the adventures.
Feel free. I think one thing that I'm noticing for myself when we talk about coming home to ourselves, something, you've heard me say a lot, and maybe you've heard me say a lot, that I started being afraid to use my voice. Like I would go out and put on a weekend conference, no problem. But after I opened the door, I don't really like saying come out of the closet. After I opened the door and took it off for you to come in, I started noticing that I was becoming more afraid to do those things. I really felt a lot of judgment, a lot of, because I feel like a lot of things that I learned ahead of lots of other people. But then because I waited, then I felt like a copycat because then other people were learning some of the things and or new things, and then I felt like I didn't know enough, and I just really started letting this opening of the door to more of who I am. Um, I just felt more squished and more pushed down, and like I couldn't use my voice because people say things like, "Well, why are you putting it in our face?" And why are you? And I wasn't doing that. I was just speaking. I became afraid of judgment. I became um, afraid that that you wouldn't want to hear my voice or hear like singing. I haven't really sung in a long time because
which is a travesty.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Because I used to sing a lot of spiritual things, and I became really concerned of like what about what's the word I'm looking for? A hypocrite, being a hypocrite, that people would judge uh, and not want to hear what I have to sing or say because I love a woman, and um, and because I chose to get married to a woman, and now judgment because I'm not with that woman anymore, and I'm with somebody else, and the journey that was, and just all of the um, what's the word? Just all the things that I had heard in my growing up and being a part of the that religious culture of what being gay or lesbian, or I really just dislike that word. Um, and I think what I'm recognizing is, well, and I held myself back. Like I really, for the longest time, felt like my efforts to create business were, it felt like having my head held underwater by the people around me, or that they were, I was on the ground and they just had their foot on my neck so I couldn't speak. And it felt really crappy. And I'm kind of done with that. But I think part of it is I'm recognizing um, like my own internalized homophobia and things that hanging on to verbiage and things that I was taught about what that was as a younger kid, and hearing about it, or not even necessarily that I was taught it per se, but just conversations and hearing it around and all of the, and then
How were you not taught it?
I was taught it.
I'm like, I only say that because that was one of the things that was really shocking to me of the attitude that in that religion it's next to murder to love someone of the same sex, and that
Sexual
was
sin.
Yeah, and that it was like something wrong with you, like that was so jarring to me just because I grew up very differently, and I still don't understand it the ways that you do. So I'm like, that's not, we are never, like, that's not natural. We're born to love people. We're taught to discriminate and to love only certain people and put conditions. As children, our natural instinct is to love. And that the sexual part of that is such a small part of who someone is that you can't base their whole life purpose and personality and just because of what they like to do in the bedroom, and that's no one's freaking business anyways. So
I think that was one of the things that when I first opened the door to this piece of me that was so blatant and in my face that, I had learned about the big red dot, and that's not the TEDx stuff, but the big red dot of like when something comes into our world and it's the only thing we can see. There are edges and ways to get and look around it. Oh, thank you. but it becomes the only thing we can see. And for the longest time, me opening the door to my sexuality was the only thing I could see, because I thought, oh my gosh, it's the only thing other people can see. And I thought, but wait a minute, it is this little teeny slice of me. Why is that the only way that I'm being looked at?
Yeah.
And sometimes I still get that. Sometimes I still get that from people. And Scott Keller, are you for reals, buddy? Dude, how you doing, man? Man, I could tell some stories about Scott Keller. And yeah, Chris was amazing. He was a schoolmate of ours. Dude, Scott, seriously, you just made my whole day, man. Okay, I have to share because we're right here and I just saw your name. Like, Scott Keller was one of my buddies in junior high and high school. But the thing that I remember about him the most is his like total zealousness for life, and especially XRs, motorcycles. Oh, just stories. You just brought back a whole flood of stuff, bud. Anyway, I just lost my thought processes, which was maybe a good thing. But just noticing how that one slice of life became the thing that people were willing to look at, and that's all. Forgetting, like I didn't open the door until I was basically 40, and so I'd lived a lot of life. I'd had a lot of experiences. I'd done a lot of really great things in the world to that point. I have 2 beautiful daughters. I was married to a good man. We had our issues. I had my stuff. Obviously, he had his. We're obviously not together. But I'd had a chance to like live life and figure some things out, and that was the only piece that people were willing to see.
So tell me more about the internalized homophobia. Like, what does that mean?
For me, it's just, and again, this is something that I'm just figuring out for myself, but just taking all of what I had heard and seen and learned about what being gay or transsexual is, and transgendered, and internalizing it. Like being afraid to hold hands in public, or being really, really concerned to reach out and put my arm around my person's back, which is so funny because I could do it with other women or other girls that I wasn't with, but I couldn't do it with the person that I was with. And, not showing affection anywhere in public, holding hands on a trail. And if someone was coming, like letting go. And never really talking about it because, one, people don't ask, and just feeling all of the judgments for myself, whether or not they're really there, which I do think they're there, or they're not, and really still having that judgment on myself, which holds me back from doing the things that I am here to do.
Well, and I found it interesting, just some of your recognitions of the judgment you had of yourself. I think this was last December, just recognizing the judgment pieces when we were in Ontario, and just how openly people talked, and how the topics that came up, and just the being welcomed by people, like openly knowing that we're together, and just all the rub with that kind of.
Such an eye-opening moment for me to recognize how much judgment I still had inside myself regarding other people or things outside of me. Like it's so ingrained, and that was refreshing and eye-opening.
Yeah,
like butt kicking.
Well, when you were talking about that yesterday, that's the examples that came up for me of like where you got to experience the internalized homophobia in yourself. Like it's that I know this about myself, but I still have to feel shame about it, or I still have to hide it, or I still have to I don't want to be in someone's face about it. And the reality
and me just holding your hand in public, or giving you a kiss in public, or talking about it is not in anyone's face. That's me doing what I would have done or would have liked to have done comfortably when I was married to Shane. Like, it was easier to hold his hand because it's normal. It's normal. And I've never been a huge like public display of affection person, but I want to hold hands in public. And it was so fascinating when I met you, how easy that was for me. And even in my own city, that there was some angst. And yet at the same time, I was just like, I don't care anymore. And then having to come to the recognition of like, oh my heck, what is my issue? And some of it was just recognizing how much I have internalized that for myself, and the fear that comes with that, and how I've let it hold me back.
Yeah. I'm thinking of a comment that you got from someone yesterday of not consenting to this form of life, and all the what was it, like a trap door?
Yeah, I'll just find it really
on rock
quick.
bottom.
Yeah, and thank you to the beautiful soul who sent that to me. It says, all right, I don't remember consenting to this part of life. Like, WTF. Can I reread through the terms and conditions to make sure everything's right? Because I don't remember there being a trapdoor at rock bottom. And this is a cute, beautiful, young soul opening the door to her life to let you into all of the pieces of her. She's energetic. She's very thoughtful. If you're watching, very overthinking. And I only laugh and say that because we all do it.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to this. And I thought, man, how many times have I done that? Have you done that? Where we're like, I'm pretty sure I didn't agree to this. Like,
yeah.
in my belief system, in some places I was taught that we actually maybe sat down with God or Creator and said, I want to learn that, I want to learn that, I want to learn that. I still believe that to a degree of like, I do believe there are things that my soul wanted to learn here on this planet. But this, I want to reread through the terms and conditions. I think, I know I've had many places where I've thought that for myself of like, what? WTF?
Yeah.
Like, what was I thinking? Why did I think I could do this? And I think that's the, like, how I would justify it for myself when I was younger is like, we sign up for it, but they don't really tell us a whole lot.
Yeah.
Because sometimes if you know what you're going to have to go through, you just won't do it.
Yeah.
You just won't do it. But if we are like, yeah, I want to do that. Like, I never want to climb the Grand Tetons. And then an invitation is extended and you're like, we're going to do it in 2 weeks. Like, what?
Yeah.
Okay. And you don't really have time and you just get into it.
Yeah.
And the learning and the growth. And sometimes we chicken out if we know too much.
Yeah.
So feel free to reread the terms and conditions. It probably says, have fun, enjoy the ride,
right?
Buckle up, arms and hands inside the cart at all times.
Yeah. I feel like I had that moment in going through my own divorce, just recognizing that who I thought I was with wasn't who I thought, and I had invested my whole life in just, you think you know a person, and that was a rock bottom for me, because you hold out hope that things are going to shift, and that, you know, it's just a hard time for a season, and then that season gets extended into 3, 4, 5, feeling like infinite seasons, and I felt like I kept holding out this hope that I was going to see something different, and we were going to, you know, go back into a place that I understood, and I knew. And it wasn't until I had some really hard recognitions that it finally, everything started to make sense, and it gave me the tools that I needed to move through that differently. But that was definitely a rock bottom moment for me of like, but I want to believe in this so much. Like I've invested my whole, 20 years in this relationship on this idea and this story. But I got to a point where I couldn't deny the truth anymore. I guess that's the shelf breaking moment.
Yeah.
That would be what it would be in my case. In my experience that way, that was like the trap door and rock bottom. Like, that was really humbling. And I got to experience a few other places where it was so obvious that I couldn't unsee it anymore. I couldn't excuse it. I just couldn't ignore it anymore. I couldn't justify it. It just was what it was. And as hard as that is, there is a piece moving through the process that we're getting to move through, that I'm not continually reaching for the ideal. And it makes me think of how you talk about that in your experience with religion, even, like, because there's good things, and there's good things that you learned, and there's growth that came from that. And it's like, but there's good. How can this be true? But it's like in that movie we've watched, not everyone's all bad. There's the good and the bad. Otherwise, it would be so much easier if everyone was
right
all bad.
And as you're talking, I think the thing that's just like moving through my mind as I'm listening to you is, before we got on, you asked me why this is important to me, and I'm like, well, the underlying reason, like the honest underlying reason, is that for as long as I can remember, from a small child, is I wanted to love people and know people like God or Christ knows people, which means you're going to get to go through things. And then I get to have my own journey of what that means for myself, and knowing and really learning and understanding how they love me and how they see me, so that I can have that experience and that feeling, so that I can do that for other people. And I think part of Rebels and what you're talking about as I'm listening to you is, it's not part, it's what it is normalizing the human experience, and stopping the shaming, because we're just having experiences. It doesn't mean anything about us. It's an experience, so we can learn a lesson. So we actually can learn how to come home to ourselves, because really, I think that's what we're all striving to do, whether we know it or not. In the LDS religion that I grew up in, one of our covenants is to bear the burdens of other people. We take this on as an 8-year-old, and what I'm finding is a lot of hypocrisy with that. Is that instead of carrying these burdens, because it feels like, in my experience, that's only with some burdens, and we label for people what those burdens are. I remember having a conversation, and instead of carrying them, we make it harder for them. I remember when I had very first started opening the door to my life and letting people into all of me, that I was having a conversation with one of my aunts, and she's my grandpa's sister, and I love her. I really love her, and she's had her own really challenging life experiences, and that have shaped and molded her and her thinking and her belief patterns and system, and how she shows up in the world. But I have a lot of love and respect for her. And we were having a conversation on the phone one day, how it's so clear in my mind. It was such a pivotal moment. And I was in Victor, Idaho. They have a park that's a big square park in the center of town, and town's like 3 blocks. So, and I remember talking with her and parking, and remember her saying something about, she was really sad that this was my burden and my cross to carry. And in that moment, something snapped. It just clicked for me, and I thought, and I don't know if I said it out loud or if I just thought it, and I thought, loving someone is not a burden. Like, it doesn't feel like a burden to love the person that I was with at the time, or to love my kids doesn't feel like a burden, or to love love isn't a burden. Love can be challenging. Love can have hard moments, but love isn't a burden, and loving isn't a burden. And just because I loved a woman, the only burden I was carrying was the burden they were placing on me because they don't agree with what that is in their system, in their lives. And it was such this like beautiful breaking moment for me. And then this remembrance of, we agree to carry people's burdens with them. And it's not just specific burdens, it's all their burdens. It's part of that, I believe, is so that we can come to an understanding of really loving people and meeting them where they're at and gaining actual understanding so that we can expand. And then it brought this remembrance of, I believe in a Christ that died on a cross. And honestly, all of that is so mushy for me right now. I feel a little challenged talking about some of those things, just as I go through a deconstructive phase of like, how does that really fit in my heart and in my life? And but I believe, especially then, believed in a Christ that died on a cross for us, which meant we're already bought and paid for. We're already bought and paid for, which means the things that we do wrong are just experiences because they're already bought and paid for. It's not something that I grew up with, like, don't do something that's going to hurt Jesus. Don't do that because it's going to hurt Jesus. You're gonna add one more stripe to the stripes that he already took. He gave blood for you. All of the shaming of that, instead of this beautiful gift that he gave so that I could come here and be human. That I could come here and have experiences that my soul wanted to have and that your soul wanted to have. If that's your belief system. If it's not your belief system, like, that's okay. What is your belief system that way? I would love to know what that is. I'm finding all that very fascinating right now. But in the world that I grew up in and where I experience this the most, that's the most common belief system. And it worked for me for a long time, and some of it still works for me. But as a righteous rebel, and creating a community for righteous rebels, I really want to just create that space where we normalize being human, and we normalize, like, we're going to fall down. We're going to get dusty. We're going to get cut up. And it's our job as other human beings to not say, see, I told you so. Like, and say, oh my gosh, are you okay? Like, tell me about that. What was that like? And to actually carry the burden and to heal the wounds and to pick them up instead of continually holding them down. So I have a lot of feels about that right now.
Mm. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. Whew.
My own coming home journey, like, it's brutal. It's been brutal. And I know that that's part of the inspiration to create Righteous Rebels, and is to honor the brutal journey for you and to give you a safe space to talk about it and to share about it and to learn how to own your story. And then if you want to, we'll help you learn how to speak about it or how to write your book about it. Or if you want some coaching, like, it's what I do. It's what we do. And there is nothing more that lights me up or is a natural drug for me than watching someone else take an extra step home to themselves, or to see the lights come on and be like, oh my gosh, I just learned this piece in me and to watch them expand and grow. And it just
see the possibilities where they couldn't see it anymore. I think of, like, a door opening.
And watching you, like, in your journey that you talked about, like, you had this belief in this way you talked about things, and then some things were presented that you're like, ugh. And it was painful to go through. It was painful to watch. And then you say, then I couldn't not see it anymore. And then how differently you move forward. Our camera all of a sudden is very fuzzy.
Oh.
Not sure why that is, but we'll just.
Something's not registering. Huh.
Anyway, just I appreciate you talking about that. Just how when you see truth for yourself, you can't not see the other stuff anymore, and that can be kind of freaky. It's amazing, presents other challenges, but
well, I think for myself that challenge is like I don't know.
Oh, that's
kick that out. I can't. Part of what I feel my work here is to do is to. No, I don't know how to say it. Like help people not feel so alone, because that was the space that I was in for a long time, and I just carried a lot of shame about that. So I feel like part of my work is to shed light on. I don't know if it's I just wish I would have known things differently, and understood things in my younger years. And even if I'm not speaking to people in that age group, I think one of the most challenging things is recognizing patterns for myself, and how I played into those patterns, why I got drawn into those patterns, and to shed light, to help people go through the deconstruction process, because it's your whole paradigm, and it's not an easy journey. It's a painful journey that again makes you question everything you thought you knew. So
as you're talking about that, we've had this discussion before of like sometimes it's challenging to talk about coming home because we don't want you to be afraid to do it, because we're saying things like, oh my gosh, it's brutal and there's so many challenges and there's painful moments, and it's that piece of like, I signed up for this. I didn't know what it was going to be. And the reality is you signed up for this too, and you feel it. It's, I guess the way we could put it is, what's more painful? Staying in that, like there's a quote about that, like, and then the day came that staying
Ananias,
yeah.
And the day came when it became more painful to stay tight in a bud than the pain it took to bloom.
And that's the piece, like as you're talking, that's the piece that I want to encourage you, that it's actually more painful to stay in this space than it is to branch out and start feeling.
There's so much fear and
anticipation
of that, though. I think of people
loss. There's fear of loss, because there can be loss.
Yeah. But it's like, I don't want to, if I allow myself to see this or feel this, like I won't resurface. Like that has been a feeling that's been very present over the holidays, back in September. Like it just feels like far too much, but being able to move through it, you see it passes. Like it passes, and it's painful.
What happens when it passes? Like, what is that for you?
There's a relief. There's a calm that comes with that. It's like, you have to know there's gonna be places where it feels worse, but then it gets better. It's like, this happened all the time with my kids. They'd be so sick, and they would hit this like peak of like, oh my gosh, I think they're going to die, because they seem so sick. And then I call the doctor and make an appointment. And then the next day they're like, and they're feeling a lot better. And it's just like, you have to be able to weather that point where it feels like, oh my God, I don't know how much more I can handle. But then we
call that dark night of the soul.
Yes. Yes,
we don't call it. Lots of people. I think that comes from Joseph Campbell.
Yeah, I don't remember.
It's that's also part of what I love about Righteous Rebels is speaking of dark night of the soul, is one, being there for you while you're experiencing it. That you know that you're not actually alone. We can't do it for you. Like you We can't do it for you, but we can be around for you. But to do things that are physically challenging, to take you out with us and do things that are physically challenging, so that when those mental and emotional and spiritual challenging dark nights come, because the slowest way we learn things is in our physical body. But if we can take a physical thing and put it on top of that and learn it all at this, it's so beautiful and amazing.
We learn that we can handle the discomfort and that it passes and that we heal, and we also become stronger from it. I think it's such a beautiful example. I have a question before we wrap up.
Okay.
Because I know.
That makes me scared.
I know I just remembered I'd asked you, why is this important? And you said one of your answers was because you get to be yourself. And I asked you, why is it important that you get to be yourself? Like, why does that matter?
Did I say something like my mind is because we don't even really know what that is? And maybe that's the scary part, is we don't really know what that is.
And what it
but
will mean.
There's a lightness to it. It's a freedom. I'm pausing because I'm like, what is that freedom? It's like an emotional freedom. It's a freedom of like, I don't care what you think. And it's not that I don't care what you think. I don't care what you think. And it's not that I know we think when we're being authentic and acting like ourselves that the teaching is that we're going to go out and we're just going to do stupid things. We're going to just be off the rails and all the things. And that's just not how it happens. Maybe for some people, but eventually they come back. They come back to center. There's a freedom. There's a happiness. There's a joy. There's a lightness. There's this capacity to like love more and to give more and to feel more. It's just joyful.
Yeah. It's like you get an opportunity to put a little microphone to the whispers of your heart.
I was going to say, what is it for you? I like that.
Right? Because the little nudges that we have, they're not loud.
They are loud, but they're not.
Yeah. And it's easy until it's not, to ignore that and get caught up in the busyness. But I think for me, it's putting a little microphone to the little whispers of your heart.
I love it when we're out somewhere and we're just talking and I feel snarky coming up and she's like, dang, like that. You need to say that. Like,
because there's a scary confidence. Like it's sexy. I'm just going to say it. Like there's a confidence that comes with that and an ownership of what you're saying and that you can just be free in saying it. And I think that's what draws people and gives them permission to own those places for themselves because they don't have a place to speak them and be honest about those places. So,
Thank you. Well, I think that
embrace the snark.
Embrace the snark.
Yeah.
I just lost my thought. Hold on. It's like right here. Right? Nope. It's there, but I don't feel it. Oh. Oh, it was a good one too. I guess it didn't need to be said. Another time. Did I answer your questions or did I just go off on tangents? I feel like I kind of went off on tangents.
No, I think we got it. Why it's important to be yourself and that it's scary to look at what that could be, because sometimes that means change and it means adjusting your roles within your systems, and it means getting out of comfort, and that can be really scary.
Well, and it may mean for myself, I know I've had a big fear and concern of like holding myself to who I've always been and what and who am I if I allow some of that stuff to fall away that was just given to me by by well-meaning and loving people. That part can feel scary, but it's also really exciting. It's the trust piece. It's the I'm gonna end with this. So Leah gave me a book for Christmas. I love Osho. I love the deepness and the depth in which they talk and the mind bending, just like. And a couple of years ago, we were driving, and Leah said to me, and I fought against this. I might have looked at her and said, because she said to me, you need to be talking and speaking about trust. And I'm like, who wants to hear about trust? No one's going to want to hire me to talk about trust. I did that. I actually did that.
Mm-hmm. And I laughed.
A lot. And what's interesting is how much in the last 2 years, trust has been pretty much the forefront thing of everything that we're doing. In surrender, there's trust. In faith, it's trust. In taking different steps, it's trust. In coming home to yourself, it's trust. And the other day I was reading Osho on trust. And he was talking about destination versus
direction,
and the difference. And this has been really challenging and hard for me because I came from a place where I had all the answers. I knew the roadmap. I knew what had to happen. And I want that surety. There are parts of me that absolutely still want the surety of all of that. I want to know. And yet there are other parts of me that are like screaming to just surrender, to just give into trust and to give into actual faith. And this destination versus direction. Destination, I loved how he said this. Destination kills future because destination is known. You take something from the past and you put it in the future, then future is gone because it's already known. Whereas direction is in the moment. It's the piece of trusting in this moment what you hear and then taking a step forward into the future, which is unknown, and allowing it to be unknown and allowing it to unfold. That has been like the biggest, most challenging part of the last 2 years for me, is really coming into this place of trusting the discomfort of unknown and trusting that in that unknown is absolute incredibleness and experiences and expansion and growth, and that I don't have to know everything. All of that piece of me still wants to know that. I am having the biggest right now. I have to say hi to my friend Carrie Luke Goodworth. I don't even know why. I don't even know if you're watching. You were in my dreams last night. Your soul was speaking to me. We haven't talked in, I don't even know the last time I saw Carrie. We sang in college together. I see her stuff pop up. I don't even know why, but I have all of a sudden this intense, like, to say hi. So if you're seeing this, hi. And if not, hey, maybe someday you will. I love you. Appreciate you. And Scott, dang, thanks for popping on, Scott. And for Kelly, who is just a really great rebel and fan, and we appreciate what you do for us.
Yeah. Well, shall we?
Yeah, my tummy's grumbling.
And if yours is, have a great lunch, and we'll see you on the next one.
You guys, we appreciate you being here. Thanks for starting the new year with us and being on our courageous journeys. And please know that we're here for your courageous journey, and we're looking forward to having you join us and us join you during this 2025 year of amazingness.
You should look for us on TikTok.
What?
There's some good stuff going on there. So
she'll put that in the comments.
Yeah, I guess I will.
I just assumed because you always do it. Remember, thank you again. Be bold.
Be courageous.
Be a rebel. We'll see you soon.
Ta-da.